So once again, you see your names. Please switch off your camera and mute your microphone during the webinar as we normally used to, and we will start and head on. So next slide. Yeah, the topic today, as I already mentioned, liquid fertilizer application, precise and safe. So which technology should I use? What is the offer from Lechler? And please share your experience so that we have a bit more life in this webinar, that you really come back to us and say, okay, I'm not agree, or I agree, or I have a different experience. Please put it in the chat, or at the end of the webinar, we can also discuss live on via the microphones. So the first few slides are an introduction of Lechler company. You may are familiar with us, and a few numbers are there on this slide. And don't be surprised, I always like to write inside my slides. And a very important thing is, or the only number is this here. We have a long history at Lechler about producing and designing spray nozzles. The headquarter, and it will be also in the future, is Metzingen in the southwest part of Germany. And we are about 30 kilometers from Stuttgart. You may have been in our headquarter. If you would like to visit us, get in touch with us to see how our Lechler nozzles produced here in Metzingen. We have production on several places on the globe. We have a production in the United States. We have production in India, in China, but all the agricultural nozzles, all the agricultural or the department of injection molding, so I would say 99% of the agricultural nozzles are produced via molding. They are produced in this factory at our headquarters. So we still say it's a new factory, but it was introduced to the Lechler network in 2010, so it's already close to 15 years old. We still call it the new factory. And also what is new is a new logistics center here in the back. So we have to update this picture, as at the moment is also a big construction site here at the front. We are building a new office building because the existing ones are having not space enough. So headquarter will be also in the future, and totally, we are not proud, but totally 900 people working for Lechler on several divisions. And you can see here the divisions of Lechler. You may have contact here and there to industry, but we, like Jan and me, we are working 100% for the agricultural division. And to be on the safe side as a company, it's really good to have these divisions. So if one division is performing really good, is really stable, other one maybe is not, is a little bit weak. So finally, we have a very stable development over the years of Lechler. And a quick introduction video will be now. We will go and jump off from the presentation to YouTube. Don't be surprised. Also here and there, I will stop the video and explain some of the scenes there. So I will stop the presentation. Yeah, don't be surprised. I always stop and like to stop the video here on this scene, because you see a transport belt, and these IDK blue nozzles are just jumping off this belt every second. But the reality of production is a lot different. This is, I would say, a kind of a marketing scene. The reality is different. That means we are producing one body. So you see these IDK, you may be familiar with those nozzles. We have a body and we have an insert, the injector, and we produce one body close to 50 seconds, roughly 50 seconds it takes to produce one nozzle body. So then another one, another minute, close to another minute to ensure the precision we want to have. Because to produce a bayonet cap is really simple, but to produce high precision nozzles as we would like to deliver to you, it takes much more time. And this, of course, is also reflected in the calculation, finally, in the nozzle price. To gain precision, you have to produce really on long cycles, mainly in a single mold. So there's only one body coming out and not 4 or 8 at one time. So let's continue. I will stop the video on another scene. So another stop of the video, and you think about, okay, why is he stopping this video now? It looks not like an agricultural nozzle, and the device we have here is a device we have for our customers in the steel industry. So the customers in steel industry, they really want to have an information about the spray impact. So the energy the spray delivers to a surface to ensure good cooling and steel quality. And we also could use this device in our testing lab to improve and design our fertilizer nozzles. Because our fertilizer nozzles, like the FD, like the FS series, we want to have a very low impact, and we can really measure with this device the impact to have it as low as possible. And this is also a good sign, and it makes sense to have several divisions, not only to be stable, also we can use all the knowledge and these devices normally bought for other divisions, and then we can use it for agriculture. So thank you for following. I think you can get a good impression about our placement, our marketing, and our claim engineering, the solution. And as it mentioned in the video, we see us as a market leader in Europe, and of course globally we have competitors. There are competitors. I will not mention them now, but you know them, that we are not the only one producing spray nozzles on the globe. So let's go back to our slides and closer have a look what we will have to discuss, or what we will discuss today. And the next slide is now a map of, I would say, Europe and a bit further east. And now the first survey will start, because I think if we would have a personal meeting, you could see on the left, on the right, on the opposite, who is sitting there. I know these and those guys. I think it's interesting for all of us who is joining this webinar today. And for this, we will make the first quick survey, and it will pop up in the chat. So application of liquid fertilizer, precise and safe, is this really the perfect solution? Of course, we are well aware that not all over in Europe, in every country, there is really liquid fertilizer available. In some countries, yes. In some countries, it's quite seldom. And of course, we as a nozzle manufacturer, we always like the liquid stuff, the liquid fertilizer, because then farmers need to have good, proper solutions to apply this liquid fertilizer with precision and to be on the safe side in terms of crop scorch, that they do not burn the crop. And of course, a sprayer is much better than a centrifugal spreader when it comes to a wide booms with a wide distance between the tram lines. And this, of course, is one of the huge benefits of liquid fertilizer. But before stepping too much into real details, let's more have a bigger picture about application of liquid fertilizer. Once again, I switch on my pan, the green color, and the technology, that means nozzles and a sprayer, no matter what color this sprayer is only on the third position. I always like to claim when we talk about application of liquid fertilizer. First of all, farmers need to have good product of fertilizers. And there's just some logos. This is a German company, Agrar, that's the mother, from Czechia, Group Azoty from Poland, Eurochem, originally based in Russia, but they have also factories in Belgium, if I'm not sure. I think in Belgium there's a big factory of Eurochem. And they all produce solid and they all produce liquid fertilizer. And there's really a big difference from what kind of quality this fertilizer is having. So first is the pH level, because the pH level should be around neutral. That's a pH 6 to 7. Some are going down to 5, but if you're coming down to 4 or even lower, you're not on the safe side and you easily burn the crop. And the other main topic is surface tension. You know water bubbles. If you put water bubbles on a table, you have little balls, and if you put some soap there, it spreads out the water. And a very high surface tension, that's another quality topic, is very important to be on the safe side. And of course, our nozzles also need to be properly setted But if you have really bad quality, even a very good nozzle cannot balance this low quality. In the second half of the webinar, we will talk a little bit about special application technology, about depot fertilization with lines or with these special kind of applicators. We will talk a little bit in the second half of the webinar. And of course, the farmers yourself, you need to have know-how, how to set the sprayer, what kind of pressure range. And so we have a combination of fertilizer, good quality fertilizer, the proper technology and know-how to be on the safe side and don't have too much crop scorch. So still people coming. We are really happy about the feedback and the audience, the number of people having interest in our webinars. The next two slides are a little bit more basics and addressed more to practical farming. And what we see really in Germany, now in the Netherlands, that the limitation of nitrogen, of phosphorus, of P, they are limited really by law. Especially in the Netherlands, there's a heavy discussion. Okay, we have too much pollution, too much nitrate. The same in Germany. And this will be also in more and more well-developed countries. And often, if something went wrong in farming, a very late seeding date, the soil is compacted and the crop does not look really good in the springtime, farmers like to have just more kilograms of nitrogen on their field. Here in Germany, there's a saying, just put more sunshine out of the bag or a big bag, put some sunshine with the fertilizer spreader just to boost the crop with more nitrogen. And this is on the one hand side very cost intensive and just by law, when you're limited, just not possible. So farmers over the years like to improve the efficacy of when using liquid or solid fertilizer. And also, it's a basic knowledge, but if we have a lot of erosion, like wind erosion, water erosion, all nutrients we have in our soil, like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, we lose these nitrogens with the erosion. They're gone forever. They just run down the next river into the oceans. And this is a real basic knowledge of farming. We need to prevent really the erosion, also to improve efficacy, because there are a lot of nutrients already there on our soils. Vitality, mortality, not mortality, vitality is very important to lower the erosion. And a lot of farmers and the farmers who like technology, they think about sensors. Okay, we need to have a sensor to improve efficacy. A sensor on the roof, on the front of the tractor, but my opinion is those sensors, they are not a real helper. They are one tool in the toolbox. And if the farmer does not really have an idea how to improve efficacy in general, such a sensor is not a real helper. It collects a lot of data, and also you need to have the operator to operate all those sensors, because you have several screens in the tractor and it's not so easy to think, okay, I will buy such a sensor to improve efficacy of fertilization. And of course, and this is also basic knowledge of farming, if the fields haven't seen limestone, calcium, CO3 over the years, and we have a very bad soil structure, we should first improve the soil structure also to improve finally the efficacy of liquid fertilization. Reducing losses, this is more for organic fertilization, that we reduce the losses of ammonia in form of gas. So a few basics, and then we are coming to the benefits of liquid fertilization. As you can imagine, if we have a wide tramline distance, I try to write or draw tramlines here that say, okay, we have a tramline distance of 30 meters. Sprayers are growing or getting bigger and bigger. Like 20 years back, normal bigger sprayer was maybe 21 meters. And then the jump often was up to 27. In some countries, of course, we still have smaller ones, but as wider the booms are getting, and the fertilizer spreader should spread fertilizer, it's much more difficult to have an exact fertilization close to the border. If we say, okay, this is the border of the field, and you have tramline here, you are driving on the fertilizer spreader, should apply the fertilizer with 100% amount to the border with no overspread. Because we have the settings on the modern spreaders, okay, you have these settings with special disc or special deflectors to avoid overspread. Because in Germany, by law, and I think in different other countries, it's just not forbidden to overspread across the field borders. And this is also a lot of money. I just pointed now here in euro. All the overspread into the ditches is just we lose money. And the main difference, and that's the big benefit as from a sprayer to a spreader, the sprayer can really put down the rate very precise to the edge of the border. Also in windy condition. In windy condition, and this is a challenge, and all over we have more wind maybe than in the past. If we talk about 15-meter spreader or 18-meter spreader, that's not, oh, the slide changed, sorry. That's not a challenge, but really the wide boom 30, 36, 39, even wider now. We see the first sprayers, 48 meters, 50 meters in the Netherlands. So it's almost impossible to have a precise distribution with that wide distance of the tram lines. Over the years, in many countries, as I mentioned, in some countries it's not so easy to get liquid fertilizer. There's only solid distributed via the dealers. But over the years, the price calculated in kilogram per kilogram nitrogen, it was always cheaper, and it's still cheaper in liquid form than in granular form. So from this point of view, everybody should use liquid fertilizer, but of course there's still doubts. There's not the capacity. They say, I will burn my crop, and it's too complicated for me. The same with the yields. Yield comparisons over the years. There's a huge program running on a producer in Germany, a fertilizer producer. They have their own fields, testing fields, and they did a trial. I think it's more than 20 years now, and they compared ammonium nitrate, granular one, solid fertilizer, compared to liquid standard 28. And over the years, more than 20 years, and different crop, the yields are the same. There's maybe 1-2% more in 1 year. The next year is 1-2% for the other form of fertilizer. But over the years, more than 20 and lots of trials, we have the same yields. There's sugar beets, there is oilseed rape, there are cereals in this trial. So there's no real difference between granular and liquid. The yields are the same, but the precision to apply is higher. And when we have really dry conditions, and with climate change, we have situations, we have a heavy rainfall, we have erosion, we should prevent or protect the soil from erosion. And then on the next scene, we have 6 to 8 weeks or even longer, almost no rain. So more extreme weather conditions, more extreme farming condition, and also the availability, especially in dry conditions of liquid fertilizer, helps to put nitrogen, to put nutrients into our crops if we will apply them in the liquid form. The benefit to run a combination of plant protection products, mainly herbicides, in combination with liquid fertilizer, from my point of view, it's not that big argument anymore. Maybe 10, 20 years back, often farmers try to save passes on the field. They say, my first pass to place nitrogen, I will run UAN pure and put in my herbicide. So pure UAN and to put in herbicide. But when we talk about herbicide application, plant protection, we want to have coverage. We always want to have coverage. And when applying UAN, liquid nitrogen, we want to have real coarse droplets. So it's a huge compromise, and it's just like the opposite what we want to have. So From my point of view, it makes no sense to really use pure UAN when we want to apply herbicide, especially leaf herbicide with mode of action to leaves. Maybe if you have pure soil herbicide, we can do it. But from my point of view, I repeat myself, it's not a huge argument anymore. And it's also quite simple to create depots. You know, we have a chemical depots, we have a fertilizer with chemical substance inside, or we talk in the second half about placing fertilizers with a different technology to create a long-term depots where the roots can source nitrogen. So more basics, benefits of liquid fertilizer, and now more in the next slide about the safe application, how to ensure safe application of liquid nitrogen. Some of you may have long experience and it's just a refresh of your knowledge, but we have more and more customers addressing us on shows and said, yeah, I have a bigger sprayer now, I have a bigger tank, I'm thinking about building a fertilizer storage, I want to start with liquid fertilizer. I have no experience, please help me. And we have also a nice literature, our liquid fertilizer brochure. At the moment, we are working on an update, and in a few days, in 1-2 weeks, you will see this new fertilizer brochure on our website. And there are a lot of tips how to apply and to be on the safe side when doing liquid. What we want to have, and I already mentioned it in the slide before, what we want to have and what we want to need with liquid fertilizer nozzle is the real coarse droplet spectra. I always call it real extra coarse balls, and we want to have a runoff. We really want to have a runoff because I would say 90% of the nitrogen is sourced from the roots and not from the leaves. Of course, maybe 5 to 10 to 15%. The leaves are collecting nitrogen, but mainly the roots are collecting water and they are also collecting nitrogen. And to prevent crop damage, I always mention, we should have dry leaves and a protection layer. That means all the plants like wheat, cereals, they have a waxy layer on the leaves to prevent damage. And directly after rainfall, this waxy layer is washed off. So we should not apply directly after rainfall. We should wait at least if we have the time frame, better 2 days, and then this waxy layer is rebuilt and the crop protects itself. It's like with our skin. Our skin is also protected by the kind of a top layer. And if you have an injury, if you cut in your fingers and you put salt on this wound or in this cut, it also really burns, and it's exactly the same on plants. If the waxy layer, the protection layer, is damaged and we put on liquid fertilizer, we can easily kind of burn the crop and get a crop damage. When we apply the first pass, so the first fertilization pass in the spring, and the crop is still very small, so not huge, a huge tall crop, a small crop, we shouldn't be not too sensitive. The crop surface with this plant is a lot smaller than with huge plants, so we can also run if it's still a little bit dew on, and with a proper nozzle, we shouldn't be not too concerned too much when doing the first pass. Temperature, the recommendation or the recommended window of temperature is between -5, not colder, and +25. Because if it's colder, the plant is in stress. If it's warmer, the plant is in stress because of drought maybe, and we should not run in real cool or hot days when we have really hot sun. We should avoid to run in the sunshine, better in the afternoon, in the evening, or when the night is coming. And if the plant is frozen, frozen or hoarfrost we call it, if this is the proper translation, I hope so. If the plant is frozen, it should be also dry, because hoarfrost means we have water there. And water means if we apply liquid fertilizer and there's water already there, we will have easily a solution of 1 to 1. And this is really what we should avoid, to have a solution of 1 part fertilizer and 1 part water. If we have a solution and we try to mix UAN with water, it should be always at least 3 parts water and 1 part fertilizer, better 4 to 1 to avoid damage, to be on the safe side. So if we will apply on frost, if it's minus, the plants really should be dry and no hoarfrost on the plants. So we should gain some experience, especially if we want to apply liquid fertilizer on oilseed rape. Because wheat is not really sensitive. Wheat, you cannot make a real damage, especially with the first pass. A bit more sensitive is like barley, but we should not start in oilseed rape, because we should consider really the conditions and have the proper setup when doing liquid on oilseed rape. Also, some farmers telling me that, yes, I use a lot of liquid, I run all my cereals, but on oilseed, it's a bit, I'm concerned, there I run a granular fertilizer, which could be also a solution for the first step. And when we want to apply liquid fertilizer on corn, maize, this is only possible with nozzles before or after seeding, so before germination, because when the corn is already there, it's easily to spread in fertilizer in the top end, and the corn does not like this at all. You can really kill corn when you put a higher amount of liquid fertilizer on the already taller corn with nozzles. So to be on the safe side, some basic knowledge how to apply liquid stuff. And often, of course, farmers, dealers, our partners, they asking us, mainly farmers, okay, I want to start liquid fertilization. I have already Lechler ID nozzles. I have already IDK nozzles, and why not using them? I want to avoid buying extra set of fertilizer nozzles. I could also reduce the pressure and run with very low end pressure with my already existing set of nozzles. Why should I buy a set of fertilizer nozzles? And it's quite simply to explain that. If we look what's happening when we're using air induction tips or nozzles designed for plant protection. And as you may know, if we spray out, this is a picture with water, and you see this is a kind of, 2 photos put together. And if we use water-sensitive paper for plant protection, we can easily see, even with lower pressure, we have always a mixture of droplets. We have always a mixture. That means even with lower pressure, we have big droplets, we have coarser, and we have some finer droplets. And if we run like 300 liters of liquids with a median diameter, let's say roughly the average with a median diameter of 500 microns. This is what happens when we use an air induction tip at, let's say, an IDK at 3 bar or an ID at roughly 3 to 4 bar. We have a coarse, extra coarse spectra. So it means coarse or extra coarse. This has nothing to do with rain. And the problem is with air induction tips designed for plant protection, 150 liters, and that's just how it's set it, 150 liters are applied with finer droplets. And this is the reason why we not recommend to use especially higher rates and to be on the safe side to use air induction tips with liquid fertilizer. Because always, even with lower pressure, we have a high share of finer droplets on the left-hand side. We like to have only the big ones to have no crop damage, especially when we go on the second or the third pass and we have a big leaf surface out there on the fields. And also this picture speaks for itself. This was a trial for soil herbicide. What did we do there? We compared 300 liters of water with 2 or for instance with 3 bar, and you see the difference if you use an FD nozzle with the same amount of water per hectare, and we use a big one, a brown ID nozzle at 2 or 3 bar. We have a much higher capacity a much higher coverage. And like I said, this picture speaks for itself to use an FD or a special fertilizer nozzle to have less crop scorch. Jan, do we have already some questions in the chat?
No, no, we don't have yet. I'm following this. Thanks for asking, though, but no, we don't.
Okay, yeah, please put your questions in the chat if you have any. Finally, okay, you see here the summary. There's the ID or IDK, which are spraying down, they are in brackets. So in my eyes, this is a huge compromise. If you just put down a low amount of, let's say, 50, 100 liters of pure UAN, we can use them as a compromise, but never use double flat fan for liquid fertilizer pure, and also not the fine standard tips. You will easily burn and make damage to your crop. So as a compromise for low rates, we can use the plant protection nozzles, but once again, they are designed for coverage. We want to have the real big balls rolling off. And another big benefit, even with the higher pressure, to have capacity with 4 or sometimes even 5 bars at the first pass, we have still the very big droplets. So this is, I think, a good argumentation to talk to farmers, to talk to customers, why it makes really sense to buy a set of fertilizer nozzles. So the second survey to have a little bit more life in the webinar is now, what type of fertilizer is really common in your region? I know, like Scandinavia, there's not that much liquid stuff, and we make a little survey. So once again, I will stop my presentation and jump off to Zoom. And then we'll start the second survey. Once again, it will pop up in the chat. And the question is, what kind of nitrogen fertilizer is really common in your region? If you work for a dealer, you may have an idea what's used from the farmers in your region. Mainly granular, a mixture, very flexible. Please vote, and I will also vote for my region here in Germany. And this is really, I would say, 75% granular, 25% liquid. So please take part with this poll in the chat. So open the chat on the bubble on the top end, and then you press the button, and then also you need to confirm. You really need to confirm. If you just press, it's not voting. You really need to confirm. So what kind of fertilizer is used in your region? Jan, in Poland, what is mainly used? What are you voting, Jan?
Same as you. I said 75% granular, 25 liquid, because of bulk and maintenance, not maintenance, but the distribution. Yeah. It's a challenge for smaller farms. We have still quite a big share of relatively smaller farms, even though they are growing, but still a lot. And for small farmers, it's not really an option.
Yeah, they don't want to invest in a storage, so they mainly buying fertilizer in big bags. There's still a lot of granular sold in big bags.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. And we see also the result. Thank you for taking part. 26 people voted. And mainly it's like also voted for 75 granular, 25 liquid. And also a question from Richard Riley. Richard, yes, from the UK. In the catalog, we mention IDK and ID are suitable for liquid fert. Is this not confusing the farmer? And exactly, I'm speaking the same, Richard. We should take out, and you will see in the new fertilizer catalog coming up in 1 or 2 weeks, we really concentrated on the FD and the FS and only the fertilizer nozzles, because this was really confusing farmers. That they were mentioning, okay, it's written there, you're recommending it, but as you could see in my argumentation, it's a real huge compromise to not confusing them. You will see, we could manage it to have it ready for this webinar. It will take 1 to 2 weeks, and Miriam is working heavily on this. Thank you, Richard, for this question. Thank you for voting.
Yeah, I would like to also add from my side, thanks to Richard for pointing this, because I wanted to comment on a clear differentiation between pure UAN versus diluted one, which Jürgen pointed, of course, nicely. And here, from my point, I would just like to clearly state that diluted one you can spray and treat really. We do often treat like a leaf applied fertilizer together with fungicides or insecticides, and it's quite different approach. We here point mostly the pure liquid fertilizer application.
Yeah, thank you for adding, Jan. I will share once again my screen and let's continue on the slides. So thank you for taking part in this second survey. There will be another one coming in a few minutes. So we jumped off here. Thank you. Solid, granular versus liquid. And yeah, a later development is we still call it new FS series. You may be aware about our range. We have the kind of older series, the FL called, where you need the stainless orifice on top. And we see this series of FS nozzles as a replacer for this older style FL nozzle. And what was the idea behind? Why did Lechler develop such a series of fertilizer stream nozzles? As you know, there are competitors out there. They have 3 streams, they have 5, they have 6, one has 7. So it's a typical fertilizer stream nozzles. And I'm a huge fan of the FD. I jump to the next slide, or it will come in a few slides. I'm a personal fan, and a lot of farmers here in Germany, they like to have the FD series with a better cross distribution. But it's really also coming from the history. In some other countries, they say, our fertilizer is really aggressive. We always were used to use stream fertilizer, and we are stream nozzles, and we are used to have these stream nozzles. And before let them go to the competitors, this is the reality, before let them go to other manufacturers which are offering stream nozzles, we said, okay, we need to design, we need to close and to have a round portfolio of fertilizer nozzles. We need to close this gap with a simple, we call it internally, it's more a simple fertilizer stream nozzle. FS is also internally fertilizer simple. Another reason, we have less coverage. When we know we have very aggressive fertilizers, depending from the manufacturer, this could be a solution to avoid crop scorch. Another argument was, okay, we still have several sprayers out in the market with different bayonet systems. That means a Hardy sprayer, a Hardy sprayer, an Agrifax sprayer, an old style common Querneland row. So there's still several other type of bayonet systems out there. And with a 10 millimeter wrench size bayonet cap, you can easily install such a fertilizer nozzle without having any additional adapters. Also, and this is patented, we thought about how to design this nozzle, especially with the bigger sizes, not with the small sizes, but with the bigger sizes from 0.6 above. And if you look closer to the picture, a brown one is on the left-hand side. The orifices on the bottom end, they are round holed. This is okay for up to 0.5, but for the bigger sizes, 0.6 and bigger, we have oval orifices. Also, the volumes are different. The volume from here to here, we have different volumes for a good spread, and that's why we also claim here we have a better distribution compared to other stream nozzles. And when it comes to higher rays, this is also the only one on the market to having oval orifices, oval holes, distributing higher amount of liquid fertilizer. And you see that here in the next slide. You see the yellow one, a small one, the red one, it's still round, but then the gray one here, the gray one, or even the very big one, the 15, has real huge oval holes. And then we still have in wrench size 10 millimeter in a standard cap, and even with a very high capacity, we can assure that we have very, very huge droplets. But you need to consider with the FS and with the stream nozzles, always you need to consider to have the proper setting of boom height. You can imagine if you go too low, if you go too high, that's not a big problem, but especially if you're going too low, we have not a good distribution, and this is also a difference to the FD. You should run these FS nozzles. Mainly, that's the recommendation: 90, between 80 and 100 centimeter. Better distribution. What does this mean? You see here, this is out of our lab. It was done, of course, with water. You see some results at 90 centimeter and 3 bar. The recommended pressure is 1 bar, depending on the size, up to 4 bar. I would say 2 to 3. That's the optimal pressure for this FS series. And you see the distribution. You can see the red one was here 16, which is really good for a stream nozzle. The 08 was 26. The size 15 was 46 for the very high rate. And you know the limit for plant protection, we have a CV of 10% in many countries. But other manufacturers, I'm not showing here, we also tested other manufacturers, often their stream nozzles are between 40 and 80% CV. So with a proper setting, following their recommendation, that's why we are claiming if customers want to run a stream nozzles, the FS series is quite a good choice for a standard bayonet cap. So FS series.
Jürgen, Richard asked on the chat if we can go higher than 100 centimeters with these FS nozzles.
Yes, you can go higher. That's the recommended height. The problem is if you go lower. Higher, you can go 120. You can go to 120 because finally, if you go really high, Richard, I try to draw it here. If you go really high, finally, it happens that the spray falls down like in a vertical position. If you go 120, this is okay. The problem is if you go really low, we had customers running these FS nozzles at 50, 60, and were claiming stripes. So this is really too low. Thank you, Jan, for interrupting me.
Thank you.
So FS series, I like, that's my personal opinion, I like the FD series really much. And we sold thousands of FD nozzles over the last years. And farmers coming back to us on field days, on shows, and they said, yeah, I had a stream nozzle before. I always had, when I put it down a higher rate and I had a dry climate, not much rainfall, and then I had stripes in the field. How can I avoid these stripes? And I just buy an FD nozzle with a very good distribution, really good cross distribution. It fulfills the CV of 10% and lower, so you could apply even a soil herbicide with that type of kind of deflector nozzles. So farmers really liked it, and often it's the discussion about crop damage, about crop scorch. I said, look, we have a very good distribution, and so the concentration on one plant is also very low. Of course, we spread liquid fertilizer all over. Like in the UK, Richard is there. Dribble bars are also common there. They also spread all over. It's not a line application. They spread all over, and the FD series is also spreading all over, but with a very low concentration per plant and with very big droplets. And when the FD series was started about 15 years ago, we designed first the real big ones, the 20, the 10, then the 8, and then step by step down. And you see here the design looks different. Up to 06, we have the narrow design. From 02, 02 is missing here on this picture. Up to 06, we have the narrow design, and the narrow design really starts to spray at 1.5 bar. Some farmers even say, okay, this already starts at 1.3, but our recommendation is 1.5 to be on the safe side. And important is, if your customer thinking about higher rates, they say, okay, I have a new sprayer, I have a fertilizer with a low concentration, I want to apply 600 liters per hectare. Of course, we have those nozzles, and then depending on the speed, they go for an 08, which is the white one, or they say, okay, let's go for a size 10 nozzle. And all sprayers out there are able to handle up to 0.6. We don't need to consider anything. But out of my experience, really, if it comes to higher rates, 0.8, 10, or even especially a size 15, we really need to consider the capacity of the pump, the capacity of the sprayer, the amount of liquids per minute into the boom, not on the blade of the pump, a theoretical value, really what is the sprayer able to deliver into the boom per minute, and then we can make a calculation. Okay, this sprayer is able to run a size 8 or 10 or even a bigger one. Because when we come to size 10 or even 15, also the piping diameter in the boom should be bigger than a half-inch. If you have half-inch piping in the sprayer, often the 0.8 is the limit for the really big FD series nozzles. So I personally like the FD much more, but we know from discussions farmers are concerned, and before having them not as a customer, the FS series is also a good solution from our end. If sprayers have different bayonets, of course, adapters are available. This is a result also displayed in the fertilizer brochure of a really good distribution of the FD series nozzle compared to Lechler Stream and other ones. You see Lechler Stream types and other ones as higher as worse the result is. So FD, FS. What's new there? What's new for liquid fertilization at Lechler? You see this Amazonis sprayer with an FD nozzle, a nice picture. And there is now a completely other picture. And the question is it okay like this? And of course, this is a picture from plant protection. If we apply herbicides, the field boundary, the field border is here. Maybe I changed the color of my pen so it's better visible if you use red color. The field border is here, and we have an overspray of herbicides here. And in many countries, this is just forbidden by law to overspray out of the field boundary. Some farmers still do it, but in many countries, it's forbidden, the overspray. And if we talk about liquid fertilization with a boom sprayer, I just try to write or draw in a boom here. Of course, this is the second last fertilizer nozzle, and this is the last fertilizer nozzle. We also have an overspread of liquid fertilizer out of the field boundary. Depending on the pressure, on the boom height, it can be up to 1 meter. And if you make a calculation how many kilometers of field boundary farmers have, or you as a farmer have, you will be surprised how many kilometers of field boundary we have an overspread of liquid fertilizer. It just costs a lot of money. And farmers came up to us and said, okay, why you're not designing a border nozzle for liquid fertilizer? I want to avoid to spread fertilizer out of my field. We have a heavy grow of the grass outside. We have to cut down the grass. I don't want to switch off. This could be another choice or another way. Switching off. I don't want to switch off because then fertilizer is missing here on the outside. I don't want to switch off nozzles. I need to have a fertilizer border nozzle. And we are the first one, as I know, we are the first one starting to design a fertilizer border nozzle. And the name FB, you see the naming fertilizer border. It's a brother or a sister to the FD nozzle. So FD plus FB, and the spray angle is reduced. You see, it's an asymmetric spray angle. The FD does have 130 degree, and the FB is just a different design of the mouse, a half design of the mouthpiece, and such a triangle to see how to mount it. We have really no overspray. The nozzle pays for itself. The European list price is 18 euros, but after applying on one field, the nozzle already paid for itself. Pressure range is the same. recommended 2 to 3 bar, but the pressure range is the same as for the FT series. And at the beginning, I think also mid and long term, we designed this nozzle for the right-hand side of the boom. Because mainly, I would say 80 to 90% of the sprayers going with the right-hand side of the boom on the field boundary, and that's why we designed this nozzle for this way of application. If some farmers say, okay, I have the boom and I want to go on the left side or to the field boundary, they can also install the FB to spraying to the front. Maybe you need some extension to avoid hitting the boom structure, but you can also say, okay, I will apply my FDs to the back. We are going this way, and the FB will spread on the left-hand side, really on the left-hand side to the front. This is also a solution, a way to go.
Jürgen?
Yes.
There's a question, a very good point from Richard again here. Can you read it, because it's a pretty long one and it is
I will stop sharing, Jan. I will stop the presentation because I also prepared a little video, and then I can also have a look into the chat. We try to answer this question from Richard now. I advise the operators that they have to adjust the sprayer controller to prevent under and overspray. Yes, Richard, this is completely correct, because we know the difference between the FS is really sprays down. You don't have to change the GPS setting, and the FD as on the recommended height. The recommended height for the FD is between 50 and let's say 70 centimeters, and we have a back spray. Yes, that's correct, and that's you have a long experience, or a long experience as you're working for Lechler as an importer in the UK for, I don't know, 20 years, even longer. This is completely correct. You have to adjust the sprayer controller when starting and stopping with the FD nozzles. To have no underdose or overdose. We will jump off quickly to YouTube once again, and our colleagues from marketing. We have several and more videos coming on our agriculture channel YouTube. Go just to YouTube, Lechler Nozzles or Lechler Düsen, and select for agriculture, and there are several videos to all kind of topics. And there's also a video, we will have a quick look. We will not visit all or have a look to all the 3.16 minutes, just an impression how this FB border nozzle is working. It's a very simple sprayer here, close by a smaller farmer. And the recommendation, as you can see, is to switch off the second one, but I will comment this later on. See where the nozzle is really running down the edge of the field. The second one is off, but as I said, you will have a tip from my end for this. You see it marked. Same color, FB and FD, the same color as always with Lechler. So if you have a brown FD, we can use a brown FB, same one from the back. No overspread to the grassland here out of the field boundary. And why do we recommend here to switch off the second border nozzle? You see here, when running high pressure on a high boom height, even the second nozzle could overspray the field boundary. So this would be the optimal, really the optimal situation with higher booms and higher pressure. And we go back to our slides about the installation, about the setting. And if you look to our literature, it's mentioning, okay, like in the video, red and red, blue and blue, yellow and yellow, to have the proper size. And the best case, the second, here is the first one, here's the FB nozzle. And on the second position, we should, and I underline this, we should switch off the FD nozzle when running higher pressure, I would say more than 3 bar or higher boom. Because then it can happen that the second one is still spreading out of the field boundary. Less with the first one, but it can happen. And farmers, they are also asking, okay, how should I do this from the cap? I don't want to leave the cap. Is there not a possibility to run the second one? I say the second one from the outside, to run the FD here and just only use the FB nozzle. And this is possible if we slow down a little bit. We slow down a little bit, down to 2 or 3 bars, maybe lower the boom a little bit, not running with high speed. Then the second one is spreading to the boundary, and the FB is also spreading exactly to the end of the field. It will happen that we have a little bit more fertilizer here. It would look like that. And if farmers are not able to really switch off the second nozzle, this is my tip, my recommendation. Reduce your speed, what is normal around the field, lower a little bit the boom, and then finally using an FB series, we have really no overspray. Even the second one is running. So I'm a little bit different with my recommendation. Of course, the best case, if it's possible to switch off the second one with electric nozzle bodies, but often this is not possible to do from the cap. And in general, if sprayers are not able to switch border nozzles, it's mandatory in the Netherlands, it's recommended in Germany, it's recommended in a lot of other countries. You may be aware about our retrofit kit for sprayers in use, our electric border nozzle kit, and it's really reliable. It's a 3-way electric ball valve, and you can install it on almost every sprayer as close as possible to the last nozzle body. So of course we will reduce in that way of installation, we will reduce a little bit the spray width for about, depending on the sprayer, 5 to 10 centimeters. But our spray pattern, with the overlap of the spray pattern, you should have no doubts when installing this retrofit kit, 5 to 10 centimeters to the inner or the outer side. And this also, of course, helps to run the FB border nozzle for liquid fertilization. Really reliable retrofit kit for sprayers in use. A few more slides, but then we will also have a break. I will just have a look to my, it's 10:40 now. The last topic will now be our variable rate nozzle. It's a new development now on the market for about close to 3 years, and we have designed 2 versions. And the reason also, we were thinking about who will be the customer for that type of nozzles. What are the competitors offering, of course? And then finally, this led us to the design of a VRM, a medium one, and a VRL, a bigger one. Of course, we were thinking about a small one, but up to today, to be honest, we see no huge market of an VRS. We could design such a one at the moment, and for the midterm, we will offer these 2 sizes for customers. Want to have 1 fertilizer nozzle for roughly 3 ISO sizes. They say, okay, on my sprayer, I have a triple nozzle body. I have already a twin fan. I have an ID nozzle. I want to have 1 fertilizer nozzle. I don't want to change it. Or I want to run from 7 to 12 kilometers without changing nozzle. I'm not able to change nozzles on the go with a multiple nozzle body. I want to have a nozzle which is more flexible with a variable rate. And it took us several years to design. I will always call it an intelligent insert inside the body of an FD series nozzle. Customers want to run maps, fertilizer maps with like low, medium, and higher rate. They also possible customers for that type of nozzle. Quick look to the VRM. It starts at 2 bar, a little bit higher than an FD. It starts at 2 bars because we have a pressure drop inside the nozzle. That's why the recommended pressure starts at 2 bar up to, and this is my tip, up to 6 bar. Our literature shows 8 bars, but customers normally are concerned to run liquid fertilizer with that very high pressure. So my recommendation out of experience and discussions, 2 to 6 bar with some pressure drop is really, you be on the safe side. And then we have a flow rate of about 1 liter. So between 3 and 4 up to at 6 bars, close to 2.5 liter, which is more than an 06 size. That's why I'm mentioning here, we are covering easily 3 ISO sizes, and this is, from my point of view, far enough to cover with one nozzle instead of just one. VRM and the VRL is a bigger one. Last slide before the little break. How is it designed and what are the ideas behind? Of course, we had a look to competitors. Some do it with some rubber elements, kind of rubber orifice, rubber elements inside. But as you know, rubber elements, they're getting older, they get more stiff. If it's cold, they're much harder than if you have 20 degrees. And so we skipped that idea to use any rubber element. We really wanted to have a real reliable, also a different insert than other manufacturers on the market. Some using springs, simple springs with kind of elements on top. But as you know from drip stop filters, simple drip stop filters, there's a ball and a spring. And these springs inside these ball valves, I just try to draw one. There's a ball on top. If there are particles stuck inside, and there's a huge tolerance also of this spring, we also skip that idea of using any kind of spring-loaded bypass. And finally, this led us to the design, how it is today. And it works like this, that we have always one little orifice is open. This is this one. See, this is the basic flow. One is open, and 2 bigger ones. One is here, and the other one you can see not at the moment because it's cut it drawing, cut it apart. We have 2 bigger ones, and these bigger ones are closed by kind of a stainless spring. This is this yellow part here. And if you look to a shock absorber in your car, in like trucks, buses, whatever, a shock absorber, this does have also kind of a bypass valves. So we had a closer look to these kind of shock absorbers from a totally different approach, and we adapted this kind of design, this kind of bypass valves into this variable orifice. And when you increase pressure, this bypass, this spring-loaded element is bended down, like I wrote here, like I designed here. It's bended down, and then it opens the second and the third orifice. And so finally we have the result, a very constant increase. It's not going like this, a very constant increase of flow rate based on the pressure the sprayer is delivering. We do recommend good filtering. You can imagine if you have particles, these element could get blocked, but also out of the testing phase, we said, okay, there should be an 80 mesh filter somewhere in the system. It could be a nozzle strainer, it could be a section filter or a pressure filter. And if it happens that these nozzles get blocked, you can also increase pressure quickly up to really high 6 to 7 bars to flush out any particles may stuck into the element here. But it's a really reliable insert. And you can imagine also this took us some headaches, and also the production, the manufacturing is not that easy. And this you can see also in the list price is a little bit more expensive than a standard FD series nozzle, covering up to 3 ISO sizes. Jan, we will make a short break now before talking about drop hoses, before talking about a summary, and before talking about special way of application of liquid fertilizer. Welcome back to the second half of our webinar about liquid fertilization, liquid fertilizer. And yeah, thank you. No problem, Richard, for the questions. That why are we here to discuss and think about new ideas, and that's the service we want to offer to you. Yeah. Yeah, 38 centimeters. It's not that common.
And when if I can add from my side,
Of course.
generally we have the information on our catalog page 8. There is nothing about FD, but for different nozzles, always there is a relation of nozzle spacing on the boom to the working height of the boom. So there's a common rule that the wider the spacing, the higher the boom should go. So normal answer, theoretical answer would be so for 75 centimeter spacing, yes, but then you have to adjust the rate, of course, per hectare accordingly, and raise the boom accordingly, normally from 50 to 75 centimeter height.
Yeah, my guess to finally also my final comment to 38 centimeters should work. If we put an FD, you know, we can go even closer, and it should work, Richard. I have no doubts. But may Robert have some measurements, and you already messaged him, so I think we will find a proper answer. Yeah, US, it's common 38 centimeters, 15 inch there. Okay, thank you. Having you back to the second half of the webinar, we would like to continue. We talked about basic knowledge about nozzles, and now finally I want to share our thoughts, our ideas about limits of nozzles. When do we really need another technology than nozzles when applying liquid fert? So once again, share my screen. In some countries, farmers say, okay, if I wanna put down liquid fertilizer, I will use nozzles, of course. I never heard, and nobody here around is using drop hoses. Nobody is doing this. Or droplet, yeah, I heard about for spraying vegetables, spraying potatoes, but it's just not common over here. And that's okay for us. We know, like in some countries, it's really not available, or they're not used to it. And as we can see here, our recommendation, the line in dark brown color for nozzles, for all kind of nozzles, ends up here at growing stage 37. At growing stage 37, because then the latest leaf, the so-called flag leaf, like this is the flag leaf here, the most important leaf in cereals, is coming out after 37. So up to growing stage 32, it's really not a big issue if you have some crop scorch, if you have a little bit brown leaves, because the main leaf, the flag leaf, is still protecting inside of the plant. But to be really on the safe side with some aggressive fertilizers, with sulfur on, with not the best surface tension, to be really safe, we should have drop hoses or droplets to place down liquid fert, like on a later growing stage, like here, to improve our protein content of wheat, for instance. And the drop hose 5S, 5SL was specially developed for this type of application. Droplet is not used that much. It's more designed for plant protection, but it can be used also for placing liquid fertilizer with the FL nozzle. Why are they mentioned normal or standard IDK nozzles? They are there, as you see here, if you have the solution of UAN with herbicide, which is not common that anymore. It's just too huge compromise. That's why we also mentioning here the IDK with lower pressure as a mixture if you want to place herbicide. But let's concentrate here on this line. Nozzles to be on the safe side up to here, and later on we can go granular or we use a drop hose, and that's what we want to have a look to. We designed over the years, and it's now launched about 5 years back, 6 years back, these special drop hoses to install with a 50 centimeter spacing. Normally drop hoses are installed with a 25 centimeter spacing, and the fertilizer was just dripping out here on the bottom end. just every 25 centimeters, the installation was necessary. And then we thought about to design really a drop hose with an, I call it intelligent stainless orifice, a really heavy one. It's long like this, and then with 5 holes. And we also tried when developing this 5S or 5SL to use a mouthpiece like the FD, like from the back. We tried to design it to follow our argumentation, good distribution, like an FD nozzle. But finally, this did not work out because when we were dragging those hoses on the ground, soil particles got stuck inside here. So we skipped that idea. And for another reason, you can see here in this picture, we need to have quite small orifices, quite small holes to have a spray jet. You see here the spray jet with energy for a good distribution inside the crop. Because imagine there is always there is stems beside, and these 5S's or 5SL going through the crop. So we need quite a good energy on the spray, a good spray impact to ensure a good distribution inside the crop. And this also led us to the idea of a 5S and a bigger brother, a 5SL, a large one. It's really flexible when folding the boom. This was also always a challenge with drop hoses when folding the boom to the inside, like this sprayer design, or we have the mud guards here around. You know, always like spray tubes or fertilizer tubes from other manufacturer is a big trouble when folding the boom. So 5S, easy to install, 50 centimeter spacing, spraying always to the front. That's important. Spraying always to the front into driving direction. And then when driving in the field, it looks like, I always call it, looks like a banana. We have kind of a little swing to the back. But this heavy orifice, this really heavy orifice, it's about 20 centimeter long, prevents that these drop hoses really get pushed up. So intelligent stainless orifice 5S, we always call this the standard one for normal rates. You see here, like, let's say 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers. The table is showing 10, but it's really max. On very thin crops maybe, but normally we're going 6 to 8 with drop hoses. Then you see the rates 100, let's say, to 200 when we go slower to 250 liters. And always important, you need an orifice on top. It happened several times that customers bought this equipment, forgot the orifice, and were calling, it's not working. The rate is much too high, and something is wrong here. And since about 5 years, always colored inserts. There was a change. The very beginning, we were using these stainless discs, but we changed that because it's much more easier to install and it's much more easier to see what kind of dosification orifice I'm using. We're using colored orifices based on the ISO colors here. You see it, the red to the gray one for the big guy, for the SL, and the yellow and the blue one for the standard 5S. The main difference, why did we design 2 of them? Why is not only one, like a medium one, a solution? And we discovered that when designing the 5S. Once back to this picture, as I mentioned here, we need quite small holes to also distribute lower rates of fertilizer. Like if farmers want to spread 100 liters, which is roughly 30 kilograms of nitrogen, a lower rate, you need quite small holes. Competitors, they say, I have only one and it works all the time, and it doesn't. Because you need the small holes for lower rates. And Lechler is always on the I always say safe side, but we want to have reliable products, that these products should work what we are claiming here. If you want to go 80 liters, which is just half a liter, a bit more than half a liter of water, this drop hose 5S is really giving performance. That's why we had to design for a bigger one, for big amounts of fertilizer, the bigger brother. 5SL, bigger holes, and it's marked with a different type of end hose at the end. And the function of this end is to prevent damage when transporting on the road, that they are swinging, and to avoid damage on the boom structure, on the paint. This is this end for on the top end of the nozzle. So 5S, 5SL, and also for different spacings, like in corn, which is often 75. In some countries, it's 70. In other ones, it's even 76 centimeters. Or sunflower, we have also the relocation kit to also change the spacing from 50 to a 75 with installing the relocation kit and a nozzle body, which will stay there. When you have done the application, you just take this piece of hose off, and this additional nozzle body can be easily placed exactly at the position we need to have that. It was never the idea, but now when we talk more and more about band spraying, also this relocation kit is more and more used to have the exact positioning of the band spray nozzle. For row crops, for a good positioning of the nozzle. Last topic before the summary, side dressing. What does it mean, side dressing? I never heard about side dressing. What are they talking about? So it's getting quite, it's becoming quite popular in the North American market on professional growers of corn for grain. You may use it also for corn for silage, but especially in corn for grain, they discovered in the US, if you apply nitrogen quite late in the season, the corn already is quite tall, or it's starting to flower already, so the corn can be quite tall, 1 to sometimes 1.5 meter tall, even higher. And then they say, okay, we need a late seasonal side dressing. Late seasonal side dressing means they have technology, special type of applicators to do a side dressing close to the row. I was just here. We want to place it here. My neighboring plant is now getting green. We want to place a late season application of nitrogen close to the stem, because the roots of the corn often just go down. They're not going so intensively to this way. Corn likes to grow down, and it has not the best root structure. And we see also a potential for the mid and long term over here in Europe and further east to offer this type of side dressing. And at the moment, we have the possibility to use a drop leg every 75 centimeter or every 70 centimeters, combining this with a Y kit. Y kit means we have hoses to the left and to the right, as you can see here. We put in some orifices, and then we can also do this type of side dressing on a quite late growing stage. We think it's not common in many countries at all. Nobody, or often farmers haven't heard anything about it, but we think on a mid and a long term, also more and more professional growers want to do this type of application. So side dressing, droplet and Y kit, mainly for corn for grain. Daily helpers, of course, you can order them, you can use them. This is the spray sticker for liquid fertilizer. Order them if you need them for your customers. It's always a good handy tool. And of course, there's a QR code for our nozzle app, Lechler app. This is now the German version, and there are several languages available, and the language always changes based on the setting of your phone. You cannot really set the language in the settings, but if you change, or if you have your phone set it to English, it goes to English. If you set it to Polish, it goes to Polish. There are several languages available. And if you really would like to have additional languages, get in touch with Jan, get in touch with your Lechler rep, and we can also work on that to add more and more languages. Really a simple, nice tool, our Lechler app. So summary, and then the next topic would be CULTAN fertilization. I'm wondering that my summary is not coming, but hang on, I will just stop the presentation and open. I have to open my summary slide. It's
Jürgen,
here. Yeah.
excuse me, there's one question from Tamas.
Yeah.
About the language. If there is no language in the app, or is there a default setting is in English instead? Is the answer I can answer instead of you? Yes, it is. It will be in English then.
Yes.
If your phone has no support language, yes.
Yes, he's from Hungary, and at the moment there is no Hungarian language. Then it goes to English.
But
this is what you mean, or?
Yes. But we develop, of course, some languages like now Czech language, and I'm pretty sure Hungarian we can do in sooner or later too.
Yeah.
And also, when I'm on this voice, I would like to add that there's also but only in German and English, the online on our web page there is also a nozzle calculator, very good one. We would recommend to use it.
Okay, thanks, Tamas, for this question. Let's continue with the summary about the general technology, what we discussed about. And you see here now it's in editing mode when I have to share my screen. Hang on. I think what we discussed in the first half, it was about basic knowledge of how to improve fertilizer efficacy. We have a very good distribution, especially with wider booms, and the booms getting wider and wider, and farmers are complaining, especially to the field boundary, that there is missing fertilizer. And also we have customers calling me to say, I use normally granular fertilizer, but I always see this problem at the field boundary. I always see that, and yeah, here it comes. I always see the problem at the field boundary, and then I start, and this is also a tip from my end, and then I start to run liquid fertilizer only on the outside of the field boundary. Some bigger farms start to do this. They said, okay, we run normally whatever, Amazone, Rauch, Böckballe, whatever, granular spreaders. But on the outside, how can I improve that with nozzles? And then a simple tip is, okay, we're talking often about the outer 6 meters, and then they are installing 6 meters. These are normally 12 nozzles. And they say, okay, I will install depending on the rate, I will install some 0.5 nozzles, for instance. I will install some red ones, 0.4, and to the inner side, I will install some 0.3 nozzles just to fill up this gap here. So different sizes on the outer section of the boom, and they're just going around. The rest is granular, and then that's often how they start, and to improve the distribution as an addition to the fertilizer spreader. And then they're more and more coming into liquid fertilization. We talked about the FS, which is a lately introduced stream nozzle. It's better distribution than others. It's less coverage, especially with aggressive fertilizers for some regions. Like I mentioned, I personally like the FD because we have so good experience, but I hear also the doubts from some countries that, too much coverage, I will go for the FS. That's where we have it in our range. We talked about the FB series, really exact on borders, and about the VR, which is a newer solution for mapping, and we are easily covering up to 3 ISO sizes with this variable insert in the VR nozzle. Late application, we just talked about the Y-kit and the 5S, and now I want to talk with you, discuss with you a kind of a special application method. We call it line CULTAN, and then I will jump back a few slides to my slides of Linie. In German, it's called Linie line CULTAN. So And before jumping into that, the second last survey will come. So I prepared a survey for you, CULTAN. And the survey is called, did you hear about CULTAN before? Just to get impression if it's an old story for you. I will start the poll now. Once again, did you hear about CULTAN before? And it started now. Please, once again, vote. Yes, no details, not at all. I used it, don't believe, contractors are doing it. Just give me a feedback, give us a feedback. And I voted for contractors applying it in our region. So the majority never heard about it. Interesting. 68%. Yes, no details. I was the one contractors. So yeah, 23 answers. Yeah, thank you for your feedback. That means the majority here, 2/3, never heard anything about it. So I quickly will explain what's the sense behind, what's the concept. Thank you for doing this poll. The second one will be at the end. How do you rate, or how are you happy with us in the webinar? This will be the second one at the end of the webinar. In about 15 minutes, we will then finally be at the end. So I will close the poll and back to the presentation. So we talked at the first half about, I would say, established methods of applying nitrogen. We mainly talk about nitrogen. Granular fertilizer works, liquid fertilizer works, but there is a way of doing it completely different. And we are working here in Germany since the last 2-3 years with an advisor, and this advisor has also experience in that method of applying liquid fertilizer into the ground. And CULTAN is a shortage, as you can see here, and I will go to presenting mode. CULTAN is a shortage, and it was developed in Germany on the University of Bonn. There was a professor called Mr. Sommer. He developed this way of fertilization in the 80s and 90s. And he always was thinking, okay, we can apply nitrate to the fields. Depending on the fertilizer, we can apply ammonia, and then ammonia is transferred to nitrate, or we can put urea onto our fields. Urea is transferred into ammonia into nitrate, and then nitrate is taken up when the plant is collecting water. And there should be a possibility to apply depots. We're talking about depot fertilization, and you may saw this type of applicators in the center on some shows, some agriculture shows, and you thought about, okay, what kind of machinery is that? And often farmers or advisors or whatever, when talking about controlled uptake, long-term ammonium nutrition, that's the shortage for CULTAN. They're talking about these special applicators. We call it with spoke wheels, and these wheels they get pressed into the ground, and they try to apply fertilizer into the soil. So we're not spreading on top. They try to apply into the soil to create an ammonium depot. And together with this advisor, an interesting thing, already 15 years back with Lechler, Robert Heinkel, our colleague, he were a partner of a project preventing nitrate flush down into the streams, into the river, into the groundwater, because that's always the challenge, to avoid nitrate flush out of the soil profile. And there's a different method, and that's what we are working on. We're not using this complicated special equipment. And with this special equipment, it's very expensive, very heavy, and the working width is really limited. Normally, we have 9 meter. Sometimes we have 12 meter. Compared to a sprayer, there's no real capacity. And with more and more bigger sprayers, bigger, higher pump capacities, we're thinking about, call it line CULTAN, using special type of industrial nozzles. You see here full jet nozzles to really spray down lines on the field, and also getting with some impact, also a penetration into the soil. So I already mentioned we want to create depots. We want to create ammonia depots so the plant roots can get access to these depots. And how does it look like? If you put down different forms of nitrogen, this was done in a lab. You see, you're putting no nitrogen, it looks like this. You're putting nitrate, you get a very small root structure. And if you help the plant can easily direct getting access to ammonia, and the result is an intensive root growth. Not only where the fertilizer is placed, also further below, the plant is more stable, especially in dry conditions. And also more and more in further east, like in Ukraine, we can see this from reports from Russia. More and more manufacturers try to convince people to use this kind of applicators in dry growing regions to place fertilizer into the ground, that the plant will take it up with a better root system. That's the idea behind. So this is also a comparison out of the laboratory. These are pictures from this professor. If you spread fertilizer on top, it looks like this. Intensive root growth on the top. And if you put down fertilizer on top or into the ground, and of course, if you put it on top of the ground and a little bit inside, we get a stable depot. And then the fertilizer, the root zone is growing around, and also is not only growing around, we have a very intensive root growth. It's a lot about practical farming and plant nutrition, and I just want to explain you a little bit detailed, because 2/3 of the audience never heard about CULTAN. And the plant itself normally takes up nitrate. You see here, nitrate is taken up by the plant when it's collecting water. When the plant is collecting water, automatically the plant has to take up nitrate. And often when we spread nitrate, the plants are getting very dark green, and they get blunt or fluffy, not really stable. And when we have diseases, often plants which get a lot of nitrate, they are much more affected by fungicide, by fungus. And root dominated, it's called with ammonia. The plant really can control the uptake of ammonia when there's an ammonium depot inside the soil. So it's a different way of uptake of nutrients. We call it stem on the left-hand side and root dominated on the right-hand side. This is the idea, the sense behind controlled uptake of long-term ammonia nutrition. So how to do it? Of course, we need to have liquid fertilizer, and the rate of ammonia should be higher than the rate of nitrate. There can be, you can use a standard UAN, or there can be a kind of mixture, but the rate of ammonia should be always higher like nitrate. And we did some trials now over the years with the range of Lechler full jet nozzles. Our industrial colleagues have much more applications with the full jet nozzles, and we thought about why not adapting these type of existing nozzles to agricultural sprayers. And you see here there are two types. The series is called 544. This is the one with thread. And the 548, it's similar, it's with a flange at the back. And we have to use both because of the nozzle spacing. We want to create depots, line depots, every 25 centimeter. This is the target, to spray here a line depot every 25. And if the sprayer already does have 25 centimeter nozzle spacing, we can easily use this threaded nozzle. We thread this in a bayonet cap. This should be a bayonet cap now. It's 1/4 thread. and there are bayonet caps with a 1/4 inner thread, and then we can easily install this 544 full jet on a 25 centimeter spacing. If not, and generally if we have 50 centimeter spacing, we modified the old style T adapter. We installed not a hose on top, there's a multi-jet end glued on, it's glued on a multi-jet cap, and so we can transfer a 50 centimeter spacing sprayer into 25 centimeter spacing, and then we use this flange size nozzle, this one, 548, to use a 50 centimeter boom sprayer. Some impression, that is the T-piece. It's not mentioned in the catalog yet. It's a kind of a special technology. Over here in Germany, we are working in close cooperation with this advisor. If you have any interested customers, or this is getting more and more common in your region, please get in touch with your Lechler rep, with Jan, with me, with Andreas, with Robert, and so on, to have a closer look what could be the solution for your markets. How it looks like. To get an impression, we have not a high pressure cleaner. We're not working with 50 or 100 bar. We're working with a normal pressure range. That means somewhere between 2 and 6 bars with this full jet nozzle. You see this is on a demo bench with 3 bar. And I will quickly show you a video how it looks like to get an impression about the spray impact with this full jet nozzle. For this, I stop the presentation. Have to quickly go to a webinar. Is there the video? No, I forgot. I stopped sharing my screen. I have quickly to get the webinar out of my files, the video out of my files. Hang on. I forgot to prepare that. That was my plan, but I forgot to prepare the video. 1 second. So here we go. So once again, I share including sound. So 2 to 5, as I mentioned. With water, of course. 50 centimeter spacing should be the target to have an impact. See, measuring cup. You can put your hand underneath. Nothing is happening when you put your hand underneath. It's not really cutting leaf in parts, but we have some impact. And like in the springtime, if the soil is dried up and we had frost and it's like powdered on the top, we really get an impact. Not 10 centimeters, but an impact from, depending on the soil, 1 to 3 centimeters. We have an impact of this fertilizer depot inside the soil. And this is the target, to really create a depot on the top layer. I know it's special, but I want to share with you this kind of information because we see in several countries more and more people talking about this way of putting nitrogen to the crops. Okay, going back to the presentation. That's how it looks like. You could follow, Jan. Could you hear the sound?
Yes, the sound was very much here. We could hear. Yes.
Okay. And let's see, this is also some pictures from experience over the last 2 years here in Germany. You see here, this is the tram line, the tractor profile of the tire. And you see this full jet, what's happening. Even the soil is compressed here. And this was cut it out here. You see here, it was cut it out on where this nozzle was spraying. You see here, this is the cut here. And this is the soil particle, the soil clot. And there you can see here the impact of the full jet liquid fertilizer. And to be honest, we're not spraying in 5-10 centimeters. And if the soil is very hard and very heavy clay soil, we maybe hit just the top. But finally, because it's a liquid material, it gets sucked into the ground finally via capillarity. And also these applicators, these spoke wheel applicators, the big challenge for them is stones. If you have a lot of stones, they break in half in between 1 or 2 seasons. And heavy soil, these applicators are also not able to penetrate really heavy clay soil. Then their depot with these spoke wheels, it's also only maybe 1, 2, maximum 3 centimeters. So a quick overview about CULTAN. It was pretty new for the majority here. And now the summary, we already discussed about the summary, and I shared with you the last topic, special line CULTAN with our full chat series and the special modified T adapter to convert sprayers from 50 to 25 centimeter spacing. And I got first requests from the Netherlands because there's a special regulation. Some customers now also try to install on 50 centimeter sprayers to create a 25 spacing because of the regulations, the special ones in the Netherlands. Feedback. I would really like to get feedback from you. Please help us to improve the webinar for the future. Please tell us, okay, I missed that, or this wasn't good, I couldn't understand that. And for this reason, the last survey will start in a second. It's not to collect compliments or whatever. Really, you can be critical and please tell us, give us a real honest feedback. And then you can also open your microphone if you would like to. You don't need to use the chat anymore. Please open your microphones, and then we can also have an open discussion at the end of today's webinar. So I will start the poll now about your experience with this webinar. So I will not vote because I was a speaker here, but Jan, you may vote if you liked it or not. So please give us a feedback and open your microphone if you like to do so. So thank you, for taking part. Still 41 people are here in this webinar. Thank you to have you here. Also, this webinar is recorded. I didn't mention this at the beginning. This webinar is recorded, and it will be uploaded to YouTube. We will edit a little bit, and then you can also pass it along to your colleagues or send the YouTube links or to refresh yourself before visiting customers. If may some of your colleagues did not have time to convince. So thank you. Yes, good update of knowledge. We see there were several very experienced people here in this webinar. Real good, very good. Thank you. So if you missed anything, let us also know. And also, please open your microphone if you would like to, or write some questions in the chat. We will be still there for some minutes. And yeah, once again, thank you to have you here or have you here. Are you missing anything, Jan?
No, not me. Well, if you give me the voice, I would only ask, what's the reason for applying or trying to apply ammonium directly to the soil and just in stripes so that it gets to the soil rather than distributing on the surface? Well, why is this? I don't know if we picked that.
Yeah. The idea behind, I don't wanna, or we don't wanna blame all the traditional established methods, because farmers are used to have 2 or 3 passes, to use granular or solid, and the target is to apply only once a higher rate. A higher rate only once in springtime. If you have a bread quality wheat, you need to apply another time, of course, to ensure protein content. But you have like feed wheat or like triticale or barley, even oilseed rape, they're applying only once. Of course, it's a challenge in terms of logistic. You need to transport a lot of material in a short peak or a short period. but they to apply only once to save passes. And in the springtime, when the soil is still a little bit more wet, more humid, then to create a depot, and then the plant can take up by themselves. And when you put down nitrate, it's really a flush. Immediately, if you put a lot of ammonium nitrate, it's converted into nitrate. Then all the time when the plant is taking up water, automatically is taking up nitrate. It gets these fluffy dark green plants. They're falling down when you have heavy winds. And finally, the customers already doing it, they also want to have less nitrate in the products. Sometimes the vegetable growers, and in the beginning it was established in the lower Rhine area where a lot of vegetables are growing. They say we need to avoid too high concentration of nitrates in vegetables. And that's why Mr. Sommer, this professor, invented and did a lot of trials, always in line. He never had these spoke wheels available. It was always started in lines. And for instance, if we run a precision seeder and we put down with a disc or whatever a fertilizer depot beside the seeding row, this is also a kind of depot fertilization. We're not calling it CULTAN, but it's similar.
Jürgen, will the CULTAN be in the fertilizer brochure you're just creating, the new fertilizer brochure?
Sorry, Richard, I didn't get the message.
This CULTAN, will this also be included in the fertilizer brochure you are creating?
No, not yet. No, not yet. As this is too special, and here in Germany, like we agreed with this advisor, we will sell the products via this advisor because there needs to be advice in the background. It's really special. And if you see interest in your area, get in touch with Andreas, or is there an interest? Is there these type of applicators running in the UK, Richard?
I think there's a lot of this direct injection of liquid fertilizer, as you saw in the presentation, but I can see we have one good professional producer of this equipment, and I think it's something we probably will work with him and see what his thoughts are on this. Could be an interesting option. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So. Of course, these type of manufacturers, they would claim that this is not a real depot and only the spoke wheels really making a depots in the soil. But we see when talking to a lot of contractors over here, contractors mainly bought such kind of applicators, and then there's always a small time window to do this, and they can cover not the area they would like to. And if you have heavy soil and stones, the maintenance costs are so high for these applicators, then often the contractors, they stopped it. They said, I only lost money with these applicators because stones, they do not like it all. The spokes get bended, and the bearings and the seals on these spoke wheels, when turning thousands of times, they get weak. And a huge contractor over here in Germany had 5 of these applicators, and he completely stops it now. Because the farmers, they always say, okay, you're running every 9 meter with a very heavy applicator, 12 meter, out of the tram line. And with the sprayer, you need a good capacity pump on the sprayer. You don't leave the tram line. You go in the tram line.
Could be a good compromise.
Yeah, exactly.
And open the market up for some people that wouldn't be able to afford that type of equipment. Okay, good. Thank you for that.
Did you like the webinar, Richard? Was it okay? I'm not a native English speaker.
Your English is better than my German, as you know. So I'm very happy for this.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes I mix words or I miss a word, but I think it was okay.
You did a good job. Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Any question from your end? I have a look to the chat. Thank you for the response. Good update, real good, very good. Thank you for the feedback. If there's no question anymore, Jan, I think we will close this webinar. Thank you to have you here. Have a nice weekend when it's coming, and see you wherever we meet. We meet the next time, maybe on the 21st they will talk about plant protection.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
As I mentioned, it will be recorded and will be on YouTube available. Jan, I will close. Thank you.
Sure.
Have a nice weekend.
Take care. Thanks a lot. Good job, as always.
Bye-bye.
Bye.